You will now enter the conference. Muted.
The trigger, what they're doing. Facebook, I meant, and these other websites. I think you're right, Levi. It's a great idea. It's more of it's an anti-establishment sort of way of going about communicating, because they.
It just shows that's where like people's focus is going in that direction. And it's happening more and more. So I mean, I think it's a really great sign. I think that things like Facebook and Twitter eventually are going to become passé, just like MySpace just kind of faded away out of nowhere,
Well, just so you know, I mentioned this to LB in the chat box on the Skype a while ago about it, and then he sort of mocked it, kind of complained about it because nobody's going over to the PAC forum. I said, "Have you been over to the PAC forum?" I said, "It's just dusted with spam. I mean, there's like 3 or 4 pages of the same guy, and it's all spam." I said, And so he went over there and got rid of all of it. He eliminated the user, and then he was kind of droning about 3,000 people wanting to be on there, and he thinks they're all spammers. I guess I don't know. He's worn out.
That would be a lot to vet. No, that's for sure. Maybe he could do like an email that's like, please reply to this email with your preferred username or something like that.
I'm sure he could do something, Levi. I just don't know what's going on in his mind as far as a lot of that stuff goes. I would think that a lot of them, he could work through them. Or perhaps, maybe he doesn't feel like he's getting enough assistance. I told him, I says, you got at least 10 that I know of in this core group, okay, that are really putting forth an effort. And, you're really, and I know you are pissed about the other shit that's happened for the past how many ever years, and it's just not going to help to dwell on all that shit. We need to get our minds fixed. Everybody needs to get fixed and go in the right direction, be on the same page. If we have to use this other, hey guys, take Gabe, this other social website, it's the guy said he would advertise PAC on it. And I sent him a whole bunch of stuff, a bunch of memes and stuff for him. He's putting something together for that. He said I would do my upholstery business too. I sent him a bunch of stuff, pictures and stuff, but I wasn't really too concerned with that. I don't really do too good on that kind of deal. My leads I get are from word of mouth. I've gotten a few off of Facebook, but not really. Mostly just looky-loos tire kickers. Haven't gotten out. Oh yeah, I heard of you. You guys do good work. Blah blah blah. But never cash in the hand type deal. But PAC, I think that PAC would be good for it because if we populated that at least and got an overwhelming presence there, we could guide people more to the forum. Because on Facebook, it's just it's not going to work. Doesn't seem like. Because everybody's stuck in Facebook. They're not over on the forum. I made a post there today on the forum. I was because I said that it'll be about getting it cleaned up, and he got it cleaned up. So I went there and made a post. I don't know. I don't know what else to do.
Yeah.
That's kind of.
I get an awful lot of business off of Facebook, but that's basically because no one can really get in touch with me any other way. And a lot of people in the glass world will, somebody will be showing one of my pieces or say, oh, Fishbone repaired this piece. And then they basically have to find me on Instagram or Facebook. That's pretty much it.
Well, and that's I think that's a good way to do it because it's sort of they have to go through a process to get there, to get to you. So if they want it bad enough, they'll do it.
Right.
And that's kind of the way our business is. Only mine is old school. It's by phone. It's by appointment. And we got to know what we're looking at, and you got to be serious about it.
Yeah. I get so many inquiries for repairs and stuff that what I do now is they find me on Facebook or Instagram, they get in contact with me. I tell them, okay, send me an email with the pictures. So there's another step, right? And then once they send me the email with the pictures and stuff, I'll say, okay, here's my quote. I can get to it in about 2 weeks. Get back to me at that time. And then there's like another. That's like the big hurdle. If they remember to get back to me after 2 weeks, then I know they're really serious about it, and they got their cash in their hand, and they're ready to roll, and I don't have to, worry about getting jerked around and just basically spending my time working out details and conversating and all that stuff, and then it just never turns into anything.
Yeah, I've had that happen. But that's kind of why I want people that are serious about it. It's the same with PAC, you want to get somebody who's going to be serious about it. It's really hard when people are getting pulled all these other different directions, and their minds are so consumed with, what they got to do just to make a living or, that type of thing. It kind of becomes a distraction in itself.
Yeah. And also it's a seasonal thing, man. I've noticed this, within PAC or whatever, and the freedom movement and all that stuff, and LB did this too, like freedom takes a vacation in the summer or whatever, like people just don't really focus on that as much because they've got family reunions and cookouts and, extra daylight. They're in the garden maybe or mowing the lawn or playing with their kids or whatever until 9 o'clock or later at night, during the summer. But then I've also noticed another strange, phenomenon. Every, September, late August, September, or whatever, there is, some sort of, scare, some impending catastrophe or something. Media hypes up some sort of, impending doom catastrophe thing.
Right.
And it's like, is it going to be a power outage, or is it going to be Obama's declaring martial law? That's what it was last year. The year before that, it was some massive power outage, or it was Jade Helm. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
and
yeah.
It spreads like crazy. Everybody focuses on it, and it's all throughout the month of September. And that's why I think that's why they started calling it Preptember, because all the preppers and all the people that, that their economy is selling prep gear, they make almost all their money in September throughout the entire year. People that sell storable foods, ammunition, guns, backpacking equipment, camping gear, all that stuff, it all gets ran through in September. Because, and I think it has something to do with this hype that the media always builds up this hype about, oh my God, there's going to be this horrible thing that happens or something. And, it's crazy. It gets nuts. But, on a totally other topic, you were mentioning, other social media platforms.
Right.
And this is something that maybe, I'm not sure who Jose is that just signed in, but this is obviously something for a core call thing, but I can mention it here. It's nothing crazy, but there's all these different social media platforms popping up. I think it would be wise to go ahead, even if they're just totally new, burgeoning, not really any activity there, go ahead and start a PAC presence on some of these other different places. I think I may have talked to Gabe, perhaps, about this sort of thing, but just throw a couple memes on there and sign on. If somebody within the core group that hasn't really already committed themselves to another project was able to, start up some of these PAC groups, obviously with, first telling LB, and then also with guidelines of conduct, a code of conduct, not to do X, Y, or Z or whatever. I think the PAC handbook kind of thing might help to kind of go with that.
I like the idea.
I think I think it's a good idea to just start kind of getting on there, because right now we pretty much fish in one pool right now, and that's Facebook.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying. That's kind of the inference I was making with this other website. That, and there's Gab AI, there's Unseen.is. There's there's a lot of these out there that, and if we just get that presence out there, like you said, have a presence, even if it is early on. I mean, Facebook didn't just start off Facebook like it is today.
Yeah, but it was also, Facebook was given like an artificial boost of like testosterone or like steroids or something that like caused.
Well, yeah, certainly that is in line with the statement you were making earlier about this fear mongering during this time of year, and also too it's the gift buying season. It's the satanic ritual, the Luciferian ritual of Christmas, and people don't realize that is part of that mystery, and all that stuff. And the Easter program and all that kind of stuff, then they want to get your mind over there. See, and really, if you want to get down to it, Bobby Lohman is the one that said that. He made a reference to people need to get themselves right. Like, what are you doing? Celebrating these ritualistic traditions, something like that. It made some reference to Christmas and all that. And I noticed that people kind of get weird at the end of the year, things start.
Yeah, I mean, I've looked into a lot of that stuff, and sure, yeah, like Christianity in itself is kind of like an amalgamation of a bunch of different like religions and everything, and I'm not like saying anything like maybe Christ didn't exist or whatever. I'm not saying anything like that, but it's a matter of fact. Christianity did adopt a lot of different like traditions along the way to basically boost its own membership. And but the thing about it is now is that I feel like with our society these days, these rituals or these like holidays that they do year in and year out, like Christmas and Easter and all that stuff, it's more of an opportunity for people to get together with family that they don't normally see, and it's not. They don't care about the ancient tradition. They don't care about whatever, the meaning behind like colored eggs or whatever it is, or like the meaning behind like bringing a Christmas tree inside your house. I don't think they know or care. But I guess the question is then, do you think there's really any power in it at all? People are just doing it. They don't even really know what the hell it is they're doing, and they don't care really about the tradition.
Yes, I do. I do believe that, and I believe that they know it, powers it be, and they use that, and it's a marketing tool. And if you
it is marketing, marketing.
People buy, they guilt you into buying all this stuff.
But there's not some sort of magical power that they derive off of you from you just like getting together with your family. Like, if one of the big things that my family does is the rule for Christmas is it has to be free, trade, or homemade. Like the gifts that you give to people, they have to be free or a trade or homemade. Like if I brought peaches and somebody else brought apricots or something, like we would trade. And so what we do when I get together with my family is like I'll make a bunch of Christmas ornaments. My aunt who works with clay, she also makes Christmas ornaments for Christmas. My mom, she'll usually make jelly or do something like that. You know what I mean? And we usually always bring enough that we can give one thing out to every person. And so like I come with a huge box full of Christmas ornaments, but I leave with a candle and a Christmas ornament from my aunt and a jar of jelly and a this and a that from each of the people. You know what I mean?
Right. I get that. And we do that too. That's sort of like a traditional type of sharing. My point was is in the mainstream, and in on the media, mainstream media and television.
Go to Toys R Us, buy these cheap Chinese-made goods. Yeah, that's what they want. Yeah, that's what the kids want.
Right. And this is, Disney had that down. He figured it out, and so did Ray Kroc. That they knew that if they marketed to the minors, to the children, that they would grow up, and that's what they would know, and they would pass that on, and that they both to be incredibly wealthy.
They also know that children are so much more influenceable, or there's probably a better word for that, but
influential.
Children are more malleable, and so of course parents, especially the American breed, they tend to spoil their children. They want to buy them. They want to make them happy, so that they buy them this and that, because that's just the kind of the trend that has become in the United States. Instead of spending a lot of time and doing activities together and maybe making art projects together or whatever it is, you kind of spend all your time working And then to make it up to your family, you buy them expensive gifts for their birthdays and holidays.
Right. But you should be doing that all year anyway, so.
Exactly. Like, yeah. I mean, that's why I'm blessed. I get to stay at my house. I get to stay at home when I work. And I get to take off whenever I want. And I get to, I have every Tuesday off with my kids. And most of the weekends. You know, so, and it's just me and them on Tuesday. So it's like, we have this, we've kind of gotten into routines and stuff, and it's fun. It's definitely not the way that I grew up, man. My dad was gone all the time working and stuff, and my mom was on the sofa smoking cigarettes, and that was pretty much my childhood.
Wow. Yeah, both of my parents worked. They both had jobs. My mom worked for the Department of the Navy. She was a administrator for Civil Engineer Corps Officer School. My dad was an auto mechanic. They both loved to go bowling and be with their friends on the weekends, so that gave me opportunity to do what teenage boys do. So, but I guess all in all, the difference, what I'm trying to say is that people get into these rituals or these grooves, these habits, and they're conditioned to believe that that's what they have to do. And when you just start questioning that, and then you start questioning that, you can break away from it. We have another guest here with us, Levi, Jose.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, I don't know that I've ever met Jose, and I was wondering if he's been on the conference call before. And I'm guessing he knows Gabe.
You know what?
So we want to unmute Jose real quick and see if he wants to give him, if he wants to introduce himself. Hey, okay. Jose, you're unmuted now. Would you like to introduce yourself and maybe tell us if you've been on this call before? Somebody about the District 21 movie.
Oh, are you driving, Jose? He might be driving. Yeah, Gabe says it sounds like he's driving.
Okay, is he? I guess Gabe. I think he was a driver at some point, right? I think he was, and maybe is that how he knows him? I don't know.
Is that how you know him, Gabe? Yeah, he used to drive to work. Oh no. He says Gabe said he used to drive to work.
Trying to figure out if we should really do the intro thing or not.
Yeah.
There's Jason. Hey, Jason.
Yeah. Hey, Jason. Okay, not sure where to go. Is it?
Has he been on the call before, you think, Gabe? Has Jose been on the call? Has he been on the intro call yet? Okay. Well, one last try. Jose, are you there? Can you speak into your phone and tell us if you're listening? Or actually, you know what? He's on the internet right now, so that maybe
he doesn't have a microphone.
He doesn't have a mic. Might not have a mic.
Pull up the chat box if he wants.
Could do the chat. He could do the chat. He has been doing the chat actually. Yeah, he's on there right now. He might be AFK right now because he was on. He did chat for a second. Anyway. Yeah, no, this is definitely an unorthodox intro call because most of the people that are on here right now I rarely recognize, and I know that they've all heard it a zillion times.
Sometimes Wi-Fi sticky, tricky. Oh, okay. Well, if he's driving, is he driving or?
I doubt it if he's on a laptop right now.
Oh.
I mean, also though, I guess those if he's like a truck driver, like I know that they can have internet connection in their truck because they get like a satellite thing.
Yeah, those trucks are all tracked too now with GPS and all that. My neighbor's got one. It's got electronic logs and everything.
Yeah. Well, they want those guys to be safe, and they want to make sure they're not driving too much. That was a big issue, guys running off the road and stuff.
Yeah.
Because they get paid by the mile sometimes too, and so they want to make sure they actually limit the amount of miles that those guys can do in a day.
Okay, so you think it's Jose has been here before, or are you?
He said he doesn't know. I asked him on the mic if he thought. Yeah.
So are you going to do the?
I'm going to just see if he's present in the chat.
Oh, it's his first time here, he said. Okay.
Oh, okay. Well, thanks. Yeah, all right. Yeah, we were trying to determine that. I'm going to start into the intro right now then, because most of the people that are on here, Jose, are people that have been on here so many times they've heard it, and so we were just kind of going over some random stuff. But I'll get into the real presentation here for you. So basically, PAC stands for People's Awareness Coalition. 6 or 7 years supporting PAC. Great. Chime in the chat anytime you feel like it. I'm sure you know LB then, if you've been involved for so long. You know that LB Bork wrote the Red Amendment. That's what this group kind of focuses on. And we're going to go over some light-duty sort of information about the PAC's method, and what exactly it is that we do, and how people can help. So, in the beginning, greetings from PAC. Okay, so People's Awareness Coalition is what it stands for. People's meaning everyone in America, awareness meaning political and constitutional understanding, and coalition meaning lawful nationals working together. So, the purpose is an educational tool to get Americans up to speed on the current condition of the government and the problems, of course, and more importantly, the solution or the remedy. By working together with PAC, we will effectively help each other implement the remedy in our own lives. The mission statement I'll go over real quick, I guess. The People's Awareness Coalition discerns that vigilance and an understanding of the law are paramount to the preservation of liberty. As a result, the coalition commits to increasing Americans' awareness of the designed legal fraud perpetrated against them and their countries, and resolves to instruct people of America in the appropriate historical facts and law. The ultimate goal of the coalition is to reestablish the American Union's lawful Republican governmental system as set forth by the organic Constitution. Coalition members are therefore patriotically motivated in the support of liberty and firmly believe that wars and rebellions are the two most destructive diseases of society. Hence, the coalition resolves to accomplish its goals in a political and peaceful manner. So, to sum that up, basically, this is like the ultimate state rights philosophy. We believe in bringing the power back into the states. We believe in reestablishing the de jure lawful state governments as they were upon the founding of the Union. And we want to do things in a peaceful way. We don't advocate violence. We don't advocate protest. We don't advocate any sort of confrontational behavior or anything like that. So we mentioned a few times about the problems. Of course, lots of people talk about the problems all the time. Seems like that's all you hear about these days is the problems. But we want to talk about the solutions. But in order to get to the solutions, you really need to dig down and find out exactly what is the problem. Because after all, the media and a lot of the other patriot groups out there, they don't identify the problem correctly. They go off in a bunch of different directions, and then what happens is everybody just kind of wanders aimlessly. So now what we have to do is identify exactly what is the problem. In order to experience less anxiety about an issue, it's really the most important thing to fully understand exactly what the issue is, gain as much knowledge as you can, and then work towards the remedy that makes the most sense. So in order to begin on exactly finding what is this major problem, what's the fulcrum issue, we have to first understand that terminology is important. And getting down to the nitty-gritty and the nuances of each of the following terms, you'll see that in law, certain terms are used a certain way, different than they are in society. Some of the terms they include but aren't limited to status, citizen, power, the order of nature, rights, and privileges. There's lots and lots of other terms that are gone over in the book, The Red Amendment, which can be found at redamendment.net. Or I have copies that are half price, basically. But we'll go on and we'll start to examine some of these definitions of these words, and then we'll see exactly how they are used in law versus how they may be used in society. The very first and most important definition that we should go over is status, because after all, People's Awareness Coalition targets the status of the individuals in order to help those individuals change that status, something that is a little bit more favorable to their idea of freedom. So status is pretty much just the legal standing or position of a person based on their membership in or their class in society. So you can change your status. One example would be if you were poor and you were a beggar, that would be your status. You would be homeless, you would be poor, you would be indigent maybe. But if you got your feet on the ground and you got yourself a job and you ended up finding an apartment or whatever, then you would be in the lower class. You know, you would be out of the zero class and you would be kind of on the lower class. Then you can change your status further, obviously, by gaining more wealth or gaining more influence in your community to the point where you actually can employ other people, and then you can be considered middle class. That would be an example of how somebody can change their status. Another thing you can do is simply having a child. That's something that will change your status, because you go from just being a child or being single or being alone to being a parent. A parent is a status change. So these are different examples of status change, but the status change that we want to focus on is citizenship status. We want to examine what it means to be a citizen, and then we want to examine the alternative. So let's go on and see what citizen has to offer. The definition of a citizen is a person who owes allegiance to a government and is presumably protected by it. I say presumably because I added that word in there from Merriam-Webster dictionary, because the U.S. government, in my opinion, does not have the best interest of the people in the sense of protecting all of its people. After all, we have things like the Tuskegee experiments where they actually injected black Americans with syphilis just to see what happened, and so on, things like that. So, one famous quote from Abraham Lincoln when he was giving the Gettysburg Address is "Government of the people, by the people, and for the people." So what that means to me is government is made up of the people, right? It's constructed by. I mean, government consists of individuals that volunteer and get paid or whatever to make up or constitute that government. But they're supposed to be working for the other people. It's our belief that the citizen bears some responsibility for the actions of the government. This is, therefore, So, after all, they are part of what constitutes the government. By every individual's contributions and acquiescence, they empower the systems that form. By taking this principle into account, we can determine that invoking the inherent right to remove yourself from an objectionable system is the single most effective way of disempowering it, rather than fighting against it, rather than protesting it, rather than burning buildings down, rather than attacking congressmen. Any of these other things are not the most effective way, and will garner sympathy for the system that you wish to disempower. So the way to do that is simply to remove yourself from it. That's called removing your consent. There's another synonym that we use to lessen the power of the state. So now we'll go on and look at what power actually is, and how, legitimate power versus, say, brute force power. So what we mean in this group and what we're focusing on is by power is simply the ability to control. So, for example, a parent should have power over the child, not the child having power over the parent. Or, let me put it another way, the creator should have power over the creation and not the other way around. Okay? That's actually an ancient maxim that basically says exactly what I just said. The creation can never be more powerful than the creator by that maxim, unless, of course, the creator gives itself willingly unto the creation. Okay. So we'll talk about legitimate power here now. Where does legitimate power come from? Well, governments derive their just power from the consent of the governed. And by the word just, we mean legitimate. So governments derive their legitimate power from the consent of the governed. That's taken from the Declaration of Independence. So right on its face, just upon the founding, the very founding fabric that this union and all the other states were, even predicated on, is this idea, this notion that governments get their legitimate power from consent. So you can make a government illegitimate by removing consent. Simply put, legitimate power comes from consent. So, like the food chain, a lot like the food chain, power forms a system, and that system is known as the order of nature. This is an actual term from ancient law and is actually noted in the following maxim: the law regards the order of nature. In Latin, it said, lex spectat naturae ordinem. That's taken from Black's Law Dictionary, 4th edition. So the law regards the order of nature. Well, what's the order of nature? Okay, well, the order of nature is basically defined as the orderly system of the universe, subject to natural laws, not human laws, not supernatural laws, but just subject to natural laws. Kind of the way it's as if the way that the cookie crumbles, so to speak. What would happen in a completely unprotected scenario when, say, like two beta fish are thrown into a fishbowl together? The order of nature will prevail there. So before the Constitution was written in common law, ancient civilizations considered the following to be the true order of nature. Not necessarily the same as beta fish being thrown into a fishbowl together, but here we go. First starts out with God. God is thought of as the almighty sovereign, and that there's no higher power from God, and gifts from God can't be taken away or even given up voluntarily forever. So it goes from God, and then God bestows or endows his creations with certain unalienable rights, right? That would be to individuals. So God cedes some power to individuals. Those individuals, through free association, form groups that they have the right and ability to leave at any time. And those groups, in our case, form a union, and that union is called the United States federal government. This is a system that's known as individualism, where the rights and the happiness of the individual are considered more important than the collective. So these concepts pretty much add up to your rights. What are your rights? Your rights are not enumerated in the Bill of Rights. That is simply an absolute firewall against the government from infringing on the most important of the rights. Your rights are innumerable because there are too many to count. So, another interesting quote from the Declaration of Independence goes as follows: "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, and that among these are life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness." So we'll go into the next term that we want to really examine, one of the most important terms in this presentation, and that's unalienable. Okay, and some people like to say unalienable, and I guess that kind of, if we look at the word lien in there, like somebody put a lien on your house, something like that. Okay, so anyway, unalienable or unalienable, however you want to say it. means impossible to take away or give up permanently. So what changed? What changed? Where did the rights go? Well, your rights cannot be taken and they cannot be given up permanently, but you can decide not to value them. You can decide not to protect them. And in essence, in this way, you can give them up voluntarily, temporarily, but they are always there waiting for you to wake up. So basically, all you have to do is see what happened, decide that you don't like that, and then say, okay, I'm going to do something about this. So that's what we're here for and with People's Awareness Coalition. But first, let's talk about exactly what it was that caused this problem. That's where we start to talk about the 14th Amendment. That's what the book, The Red Amendment, is about. That's what it refers to, the Red Amendment. The color red is symbolically indicative of communism. And that's why the book is called The Red Amendment, because after all, this amendment was a seed of communism planted inside the code or inside the makeup of what the union was. The function of the federal government fundamentally changed upon the Reconstruction Amendments being enacted, the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments. The 14th Amendment's complex language created for the first time a status called federal citizen. Prior to this, all individuals were members of their state. And actually, in the law, it doesn't say federal citizen. It actually says citizen of the United States. But that's basically the same thing, because before that, everyone was members of their state. I was a Virginia, or say if I lived in Virginia at the time, I'd be a Virginian, or I'd be a Marylander if I lived in Maryland, or I'd be an Ohioan if I lived in Ohio, and so on and so on and so on. All of the states have actually been designated with terms by which the people that have allegiance to those states are supposed to be called, such as Hawaiian, Californian, Washingtonian, and so on and so on. This is in the custom styles manual that can be found, United States Styles Manual, and I forget what the year that was. I think it was 1984. Anyway, the phrase in the law of the 14th Amendment, the phrase privileges and immunities, is opposed to rights. Privileges and immunities actually allow the government to change and suspend or ignore these attributes at any time. So when the phrase comes up that all people or the states shall make no law which infringes upon the privileges and immunities of any of these people, basically what it's saying is that it has given its property, its people, its citizens, it gave its citizens a few set of privileges that it can basically change anytime it wants, and the federal government is not going to allow any of the states to make a law that should change that at any time. This amendment actually ignores the order of nature, which is known as government de jure, and it replaces it with man's law, known as government de facto. Why do I say that? Well, it goes back to that maxim of common law that I mentioned earlier, and that is the creation can never be more powerful than the creator. This is regarded as universal truth, that for all throughout time in written history, since law has become a concept, this maxim has been thought of as being a universal truth. The creation can never be more powerful than the creator, unless, of course, the creator decides to give itself willingly under the creation. So let me read this part again. The amendment ignores the order of nature as known as government de jure and replaces it with man's law known as government de facto. The reason that we use these terms de jure and de facto, which means of nature and of fact, respectively, is because one indicates the order of nature is in operation and is being followed. One indicates that man decided that they probably knew a better way and decided to change things, and by some genius or some deceit, people have gone along with it. Okay? So the way that the order of nature has been switched around now, and the new order, if you want to call it that, the new order is that the federal government is at the top of the power structure. The federal government then allows the states to do things, allows the states or disallows them from doing things, such as the law mentioned. The law in the 14th Amendment says that no state shall make any law which infringes upon the privileges or immunities of any of the United States citizens. So the government is basically taking the seat of power at that point over top of the states and obviously the individuals. In the new order, we have the federal government at the top of the power structure, and we have the groups and the states and the organizations, and then we have individuals. Individuals are considered the least powerful in this power structure, and God is omitted completely. This is what is known as collectivism, where the group is always considered more important than the happiness and well-being of the individual. Now, we do understand that being part of a group is powerful in a certain way, just like the phrase, united we stand, divided we fall. We believe that that is true, but this has to be done by free association, and it can't be done through coercion or force, because then it just isn't legitimate. So, political power comes from groups of people that share the same status. This is why the states seem to have no power. All the people in all the states are federal citizens or citizens of the United States, primarily, and not citizens of their state or just nationals of their state. The reason that this is a big issue, this is really where the rubber meets the road here with regard to PAC and our method. This is what makes us different from other groups. We identified that this is the major truth that we need to focus on. Political power comes from groups of people that share the same status. That's why we wish to help people to understand all these concepts and hopefully come to the conclusion that changing their status is the best thing for them and the best thing for the future generations. Again, I'll say this sentence. This is why states seem to have no power, okay? Because the states do not have any membership. The people have vacated. There's nobody living in the states anymore in a legal sense. In a physical sense, yes, obviously. There's many people living in the states and in the geographical regions that are known as, Virginia, Maryland, Florida, and so on and so on. But the reason that I say in a legal sense there's no people in the states is because very, very little, very, very few people actually have a primary allegiance to a state versus having a primary allegiance to the United States. This is a big, big difference, and it doesn't seem like a significant difference, but that is the fulcrum, that is the crux of the problem. That is that we've identified the problem. So, to examine a little bit what makes a difference, what is the difference between a federal citizen or somebody that's citizen of the United States primarily versus somebody that's a national of a state or a state national, as the People's Awareness Coalition likes to call it. The state national stands on God-given unalienable rights and the order of nature and stands on the law and acts to protect their rights. People that are born in the many states actually have a birthright to the place that they are born in. This is backed up by the principles that are found in the Law of Nations written by Vattel, which predates the Constitution, and is actually the major foundational document, other than the Magna Carta and other sorts, also Cherokee governmental systems. All of these were hybridized in the formation of the original American Union, or United States Union. So, the order of nature, and the state national stands on the order of nature, and they understand the law, and they act to protect their rights. Whereas federal citizens stand on the government-granted privileges, and they hope they're not taken away or changed or suspended for arbitrary reasons. They often do not understand the law, and therefore they are at the mercy of the system. So we let me think of a quick example for this right now. We recently just now had a big fiasco happen in Charlottesville, which is very close to where I live. I've been there many, many times, and I love that town. It's got a lot of history. People of Charlottesville had a rally that turned bad. There were white supremacists, so-called, and there were leftists known as Antifa and Black Lives Matter and other such organized names, probably. Well, they got out there and they decided to have a big fight. I think that this was actually fomented artificially. I don't think that it happened naturally at all. I think that, if anything, these so-called neo-Nazi groups that came out there were paid shills or just useful idiots. Anyway, the result of that basically is that they're considering, taking the First Amendment, or so-called taking away the First Amendment from people to go out and protest or to gather in a peaceful way. They're considering hindering that so-called right because they just didn't like the way that this rally turned out. Well, I submit to you that basically proves the point that these Bill of Rights is not in effect. Because if they can arbitrarily think to change or suspend that so-called right, then it's not really a right at all, is it? It's a privilege. And they will decide to take that away if anything like that happens again. I really do believe. So again, we'll go back over a little bit. How do we fix it? Well, again, like I said, the best way to correct the current situation is to bring the power back to the states. This is the way it was intended by the Founding Fathers. By correcting your status to that of a state national, you will be pledging your allegiance to a state, thereby bringing political back into that state and bringing the federal government back into its intended function in time. Once, ideally, obviously, many, many people do this process. People's Awareness Coalition is here to help provide the remedy, which basically is an administrative process and consists of lots of mailing letters and getting registered receipts and making sure that you are doing a lot of diligent, good faith efforts to let the powers that be know exactly what you're trying to do. It has been the mission of People's Awareness Coalition since 1998 to bring proper constitutional education and political awareness to all Americans. However, in time it was realized that most Americans are not quite ready for one reason or another. Maybe they aren't ready mentally. They don't want to accept the concepts that are laid forth here and verified in law and are indisputable facts. Maybe they aren't ready to accept those. Or maybe they just aren't ready in a financial sense. Maybe they have a lot of debt to the system. Maybe they are enjoying the benefit of a grant, or maybe they're enjoying the benefit of collecting Social Security or some other such thing. We understand that this is a situation, and it's not ideal, but it's understandable. Thus, PAC Alliance was formed. So, PAC Alliance is basically everybody around the peripheral of the main core group, which should consist of people that have corrected their status. And the people that make up the alliance are those that are possibly on the pathway to correcting their status, or they have determined that they just can't do it, but they believe in the information and they would like to help others to reach their goal. So PAC is looking for good people to move this vision forward. Those people who are looking to free America from its deception and assist those who truly want freedom. So you can get involved with PAC Alliance by getting a copy of the book, reading and understanding the content, and doing your own research independently, and other things like that, and being part of the conversations and being part of the group that we have going on. We have a growing group now, I believe. We have at least 10 people that I can think of, maybe 15 off the top of my head, that are very active together online and talk quite often, and are working to expand the infrastructure of People's Awareness Coalition. There's been throughout time of the existence of People's Awareness Coalition, there have been hundreds of people that have corrected their status. A lot of these people have gone their own way, and that's unfortunate. But we're here, we're moving forward, we're trying to gain our base, and that's where we're at. So PAC is here to help again. PAC has released a lot of information that can be found at pacandlaw.us in the form of white papers, and you can start your educational journey there with the assistance and consultation of PAC members at the Facebook group Official PAC Alliance. You can also go to the PAC forums, which can be found at pacgroups.us/forum, and there's sub-forums on there for the higher levels that are being constructed now, such as level 1, level 2, level 3, and beyond. Right now, basically, this call is directed at people that I would say I would designate our level 0, people that haven't been introduced at all to the idea of People's Awareness Coalition and just barely started to understand what's going on here. Level 1 is what we call self-study, and that's once you've bought the book and then you are reading the white papers that can be found at pacandlaw.us, and other documents such as possibly your state constitution prior to Reconstruction, the last known copy of your state constitution. Also, Vattel's Law of Nations and other supplementary books such as F. Tupper-Saucy's Rulers of Evil, and other materials like that. That's not so much a research material; it's more of a novel, I guess. But we'd also ask you to go to redamendment.net and check out the buying a copy of the Red Amendment written by L.B. Bork. In any case, even if you're not in a position to change your status ever, or right now or ever, you can assist those that are. You can volunteer time to assist with different projects, and you can go to bed at night knowing that you have put forth effort towards contributing to a better future for all Americans. If you're ready to learn more and access the best information on this subject, you can get a copy of the Red Amendment, again, by going to redamendment.net. You can also email me, and if you would like to know what my email is, then you can raise your hand by pressing *2. You can raise your hand by pressing, or if you're on the online interface, you can raise your hand some other way. I think probably by pressing the 3 lines in the top of your avatar box that has your name has your name initials in it. You can press *2 if you're calling in from phone. For any questions or comments, or if you want to get my email, you can just ask or raise your hand. But basically, this concludes the introductory presentation here. And again, I'll say anybody that wants to raise their hand can press *2, or they can find out some way of raising their hand on the online interface. I'm not sure exactly what you got to do that, because I'm in the moderator position right now and I can't raise my hand. But if anybody has any questions, now's the time to do it. I think that Frank has a hand up, in which I think he was probably just boasting that he knows how to do it.
Yeah, it's *2. Gabe just popped in there. If you have any questions, press *2.
So I can press *2 on my keypad and on my. How did you raise your hand, Frank?
I'm on the internet, so. I'm on the web.
Okay, I see. You go to it when you go to the three lines. Yeah, okay. The 3 lines on your little icon that's here on the interface here is how you would raise your hand.
I thought you were on the computer.
I am on the computer.
Oh.
I didn't know that I could go to the little menu thing. I didn't know I could do that. You did it while I was explaining it. So anyway, yeah, that's how you do it. You go to the little 3 lines that are there on your where your initials are, There will be a drop-down menu, and you press raise hand, or you press *2. I don't think anybody has any questions. Hey, Gabe, did you record that, or are you still recording it? Okay,
Yes.
great. I thought that was a pretty good one, actually. So I'd like to. Yeah, you can cut the beginning and the end off. That would be cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. Well, nobody has any questions, comments, anything like that? Press *2 or raise your hand somehow. No, I guess not. All right. Well, one of the things that I came up with earlier in the call before most of the people came on was there's lots of different social media out there other than Twitter and Facebook. And I think that society and the internet community is looking for an alternative that will not censor their speech. And so what I was suggesting is that with all these new platforms that are coming out, People's Awareness Coalition should try to get on these platforms right in the very beginning and just start posting little things here and there just to have more lines in the water. Because right now, like I said before, we're fishing out of one pond right now mainly, and that's Facebook. But I know that Twitter has a little bit of a presence with Don and Gabe going on those platforms. And Instagram, I believe that Gabe has started an Instagram. But we can put our heads together and look at the way that these different social media platforms function, and try and use their abilities somehow for our benefit. So, on that note, if anybody doesn't have any, Jose says, such as a core group in each of those platforms. Yes, Jose, that's what I mean. We'll probably have an official PAC representative make an official PAC account or avatar on each of these. But then, of course, anybody that's also on those groups, they could help by reposting or by posting their own pictures or stories that pertain to People's Awareness Coalition. Maybe it's a picture of the book, or maybe it's a picture of a Thomas Jefferson statue with some sort of a quote and then a link to a PAC page, or some other way of basically just promoting and trying to get people to come to the forum, which again is pacgroups.us/forum. That again is PAC, P-A-C, groups at us.forum. And you can go there, and hopefully the forum will be in order. There's been some hiccups with that. I guess we were just talking about how there was a lot of spam on the forum from Russians, I guess, and there was some Russian. There was probably a hack that ended up hijacking one of the PAC URLs. We're not Russian phobes, but it's reality. That's what happens. Just saying. So anyway. That's something that we should talk about maybe on the next core conference call. That would be on Friday, I believe, and I'll try and be there. Fridays are kind of hectic for me, but I do try and listen to the recordings from those calls. And I'm sure we'll go over tons and tons of other information there. One of the other things that we're going to be doing is we're going to be making PowerPoint presentations for every chapter of the book. That's something that I'm going to be going to, and that's something that we're going to be starting to dive into here very soon, actually. I just have to finish the first leg of my journey, which is rereading the first part of the book. Anyway, so I guess on that note, we kind of gotten to the end of the call now. So I'm going to go ahead and say goodbye to everybody and say, Jose, PowerPoint presentation is basically a graphic display of information that will basically help to walk people through some points, people that maybe find it hard to just sit down and read the information that's in the book, The Red Amendment, because the information that's in that book is quite dense, and in some cases kind of hard to understand, because it's a little bit of unlearning some brainwashing that has happened throughout living through society and going to public school and all that stuff. There's a little bit of a cognitive dissonance that may happen with some people, and they might not just pick up on it as fast as others. And so we're going to offer a sort of like a tutoring program, and we're also going to do these PowerPoint presentations, which we think will be able to hopefully simplify and explain some of these concepts that are gone over it. And by doing a PowerPoint presentation for every single chapter, I think that that's a good way of breaking it up. Instead of doing one massive giant PowerPoint presentation that could take, who knows, days and days and days to go through. We're going to do a PowerPoint for every single chapter. We'll try and keep it to where each PowerPoint presentation can be sort of gone through in about 20 minutes or a half an hour or something. And that way people can get a really good concept for exactly what the content of the chapter is. And then hopefully they'll go back, try and reread it on their own with the knowledge of the PowerPoint sort of as a tutor guide to go through. So yeah, it is extremely technical, the book, and so yeah, we want to try and assist people to just really deeply understand it the way that it should be understood. So the PowerPoint's one of the next big projects we got going on, among other things. There's a ton of things going on right now, all at the same time with our group, and we always. Right, we make it basic to start off for newcomers, but we also want to let it be known that anybody that even if you don't really fully understand or you haven't really gotten through the book yet, but you're really interested in it and you maybe need a little bit of help and you're also willing to help in some way, we will try and make that work. We'll try and help anybody that wants to be involved and wants to volunteer time or wants to, go do the buddy system with somebody and say, read through chapter by chapter with somebody, anything like that. We're here to help. So that's what we're all about. So yeah, it's very cool. Thanks for coming on to the call tonight, Jose. And I'm not sure who Hats is, but hello, Hats. Thanks for coming on the call. You jumped onto it about halfway through, I think, but that's fine. I think you probably got a pretty good, meaty portion from that PowerPoint presentation that I went over. Right. So Jose says same reason why I look for pictures of the definitions of legal words. Right. Yeah. So I guess it's another way of explaining it to your brain. Yeah, Gabe is saying that he's recorded the show, and so you can go back onto his YouTube account, and you can actually listen to the show again and other past shows. Sometimes we go over a lot of different little information. This show was pretty focused on the PowerPoint, but sometimes I'll go off in different directions and different tangents, and so it's kind of a different experience each time. So yes, Gabe is saying, look for me on Facebook. His name is Arch Gabe on Facebook. My name is Levi Fishbone Charlton if you want to find me on Facebook. And again, I have books that are half price basically than what you can find on redamendment.net. And so if you'd like to maybe get a book on the cheap from me, then that's possible. You can hit me up on Facebook. I'm Levi Fishbone Charlton. And I'm actually on Instagram too. Fishbone Glass on Instagram, but all of the content of my Instagram account is nothing but glass. Somebody said something here. Was that Jason maybe?
No, I'm sorry.
No, it's all right. You got unmuted at some point.
I didn't know you had unmuted me.
Sorry. I had unmuted everybody because we were gonna end the call.
Yeah, we were going to end the call, so yeah, then a couple of pictures of things, or not pictures, questions came up in the chat. So.
Okay, no problem.
Cool. All right, well,
I'm getting ready to eat now.
I guess I'm going to go ahead and say goodbye to everybody, and I'll see y'all on here next week, and I'll see some of you on Friday when we have the court conference call. Anyway, have a great night, everybody, and God bless.
Yeah,
Your line.